Welcome to our meeting. The date is December 30, 2025. The time is 7 p.m. This is an open meeting of the Grand Island City Council. The City of Grand Island abides by the Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is displayed in the back of this room as required by state law. The City Council may vote to go into closed session on any agenda item as allowed by state law. I ask that you stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The city clerk will now perform roll call.
Councilmember Sheard.
Present.
Councilmember Stelk.
Present.
Councilmember Conley.
Present.
Councilmember Nickerson.
Present.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Hazy.
Present.
Councilmember Mendoza. Present. Councilmember O'Neill and Pollock will be absent. Councilmember Lanfear. Present. And Mayor Steele.
Present. Also present are Jill Grenier, the city clerk, Patrick Brown, the city administrator, Carrie Fisk, the city attorney, and Keith Kurz, the public works director. Individuals who have appropriate items for city council consideration should complete the request for future agenda items form located at the information booth. If the issue can be handled administratively without council action, notification will be provided. If the item is scheduled for a meeting or study session, notification of the date will be given. Council members, Mr. Nickerson has requested to remove 7F from the consent agenda. Do you council members wish to remove any other consent agenda items? Hearing none, we shall continue. A sign-up sheet was available in the lobby for individuals wishing to provide input on any of tonight's agenda items. If you did not sign up to speak on an agenda item, please come forward, state your name and the agenda topic on which you will be speaking.
Mayor and Council, I didn't sign up ahead of time, but I'm here to answer questions if any should arise for the Heartland Event Center.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I apologize. I also missed the sign-in sheet, but would be glad to talk about any questions about State Fair Livestock Show and specifically item 10A.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Not on the sign-up sheet as well, but here to answer any questions on item 7H.
And your name, sir?
Carlos Dillon.
Pardon?
Carlos Dillon.
Thank you. We shall continue. Item 6A, Annual Report of Tennis Center Utilization and Availability.
Good evening, Council. I'm Ron Bender. I'm with the Grand Island Tennis Association, the secretary, and Josh Budler is our tennis pro. And we have the contract for the city to run the tennis center. So if there's any questions on the report, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you. And are you going to present, or is Mr. McCoy going to present?
I don't know there's really any presentation other than the report itself, and it should be in the packet.
Okay. You're available for questions.
Yes, if there's any questions on the usage or of the facility, we're here to answer that.
Sure. And Mr. Brown?
I really appreciate you allowing the pickleball people to use that too. We hear a lot from them, and they can cohabitate with you a little bit and fill
Yep.
up the center. That's really good.
Yeah, it's no problem. We work with them, and we work with them. They play every day, and they fill in a lot of the hours where we can allow them to use it where we're not using it for tennis.
That's really good. Then that way you can get more of a percentage full. Thank you.
Any other questions for these gentlemen from the council? Then we shall continue. Thank you, sirs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 7F? Mr. Lanfear?
I move that we approve the consent agenda A through T with the exception of F.
And Mr. Brown?
I second that motion.
Oh, hold on. Okay, I'm going to redo that. It jumped. Who made the motion
Mr. Lanfear?
and the second?
Mr. Brown?
All right, there we go. Please vote. Motion adopted.
7F, approving request from I.Me Madre LLC, DBA I.Me Madre, 316 East 2nd Street, for a change of location for their Class C liquor license to 112 West 3rd Street. Mrs. Grenier?
Okay, a.Annual, Mondre, they just did an application to do a change of location to their new address, and I think there was some questions on it.
Mr. Scheer, do you have a motion?
Yes, thank you. I move that we approve item number 7F.
And Mr. Lanfear? Thank you. Mr. Nickerson, discussion?
Yes, thank you. Like most of my colleagues, I just wanted to go on the record and make sure that we understand that reading through the police report, they had concerns, and so do I, based on what I read. And Norma, I'm assuming that you're here to interpret as needed. Would you go ahead and come up then and can introduce our applicant here, since this is a liquor license transfer. We can ask her to come up.
My name is Ruth Carvajal. I am the owner on I.Me Madre Bar.
Okay, very good. First of all, this has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about, but how did you come up with the name? It's an interesting name for your business, so how did you come up with that?
Well, before we fly a lot. We have a vacations a lot everywhere in Mexico. And like 5 years ago, my husband died. So I decided invest in something, And I hear a lot of restaurants, bar, nightclub in Mexico, with that kind of name, like I Mi Madre, Mia Mamacita, or something like that. So we're looking for a lot of names, and my older daughter, she's the one that picked that name. That's like Oh Mamma Mia, or but Mexican, like Ay Mi Madre.
I see. It was just interesting.
Yeah.
The way I look at it says, "Oh my mother." Oh my
Yeah,
mother.
Oh my
It's just
mother.
that's
like,
kind of an
like
interesting.
Oh my God, but that's
Okay,
Oh my mother.
Oh my
Yeah.
mother. Okay, well, very good. The police report had some questions, and I'm going to ask you some things. You're very well aware of Sergeant Dvorak and those that visited with you, but it looks like as we look at your old establishment on 2nd Street, you had quite a few calls from the police. Police had to come 111, or at least got 111 calls in a 3-year period. And so that raises some red flags. And it doesn't raise enough red flags based on what I read on the report to deny the move. But my question is, 111 calls over 3 years is kind of a problem. By moving from Second Street to Third Street, what changes are you going to be able to make that less of a hassle for the police and less of a hassle for you, because you have to deal with that too. So what changes are you anticipating making to make it better than it's been?
Yeah.
11 llamadas a la policía y ahora con esta movida, ¿qué crees que va a hacer mejorar?
Dile que cuando empecé es como atrás había apartamentos, era como
Estaba muy apartado.
sí, estaba muy, y el one way. Toda la gente salía, al ver de salir para allá, mucha gente salía para el otro
She
lado.
said the area where it was on 2nd Street, it was more of a secluded area. And a lot of times, there's the apartments in the back. And then a lot of times when people would leave, 2nd Street's a one-way, they would go the opposite direction. They would head the opposite direction on that one-way. So a lot of times, calls would be made, or there would be traffic stops because of that, or because of the apartments from the back, because of the way the cars were parking all around.
That was one of the biggest problems that she had then with that establishment location?
Fue la mayoría o el más gran problema que tuvieron ahí, o
Es más por el tráfico, por lo mismo que no había mucho parqueadero.
there was not too much for parking, so they were kind of staggered all around too for the
Okay.
parking to get over to her bar.
Did you have much trouble with clients wanting to fight and cause trouble and
Sí,
Peleando.
para salir, el parqueadero era muy pequeño. A veces los carros pegaban uno con otro o ya salían un poco tomados.
She said a lot of times the fights would be people leaving or trying to back out, and then they would hit another car parked just because of the way cars would start to park because of the parking, the way it was. There isn't too much parking
Y
in
es
that
un
area.
área como muy oscura, no
And it
es.
was really dark in that area.
Okay, so it sounds like that was primarily it was just the whole situation of the location and
location.
difficulty
Location.
coming in and getting out. And I can't corroborate that with the police, I don't know. I know that when I see that the police have a concern, then I have a concern. And
Que cuando la policía tiene
Yeah,
tantas así,
yeah.
entonces también él dice que es un problema para ellos.
right, so Third Street is very busy. It's going to be a very visible place as well. And I know that she's changing her business model a little bit, maybe with more security. I don't know if security is the right word here. And just,
Ya más luz,
Y dice
más.
que él cree que pues la calle 3 es más, tiene más gente más. Y también pues pasa muchos carros y
Yeah.
todo. Y que vas a tener más seguridad.
Yeah.
So more security.
because I think it's very important. You don't want problems, and we don't want problems on Second Street or Third Street. We
Yeah.
want things to be as smooth as possible, and I know you do too. And as a council tonight, we're voting to allow your license to be relocated from Second to Third Street. And so that's really what we're voting on tonight. I don't see a reason for me to say no. I don't see a reason for me to say no tonight because of that. But I do know that I want to make sure that you understand how important it is to have your establishment as peaceful as possible. You're not the only bar that ever gets calls to it, I know that, but we just want to make sure that you understand that we want everything to go as smooth as possible for your sake as well as ours.
Que todo sea simple y luego también que no haya tantos problemas porque y sabe que no es el único bar que va a estar ahí
Yeah.
por esa área.
Y dile que es como yo he ido aprendiendo, son ya 4 años corriendo el negocio, pero también cuando aprendí había muchas cosas que yo he ido aprendiendo y he ido trabajando también con la policía y todo, entonces pues aquí en la nueva locación pienso que va a ser mucho mejor para mí.
She said that she's been in the business for 4 years, and in those 4 years, first time doing this business, she has learned a lot. And with each of those calls or, as things go on, she has learned quite a bit. And she's also learned that, it's better, working with police department. And then she said that feels that being on Third Street is going to be better location for.
Okay, well, very good. Well, thank you for coming up, and good luck on your new location. I
Thank
hope
you.
things go very well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Norma?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
We will now take up our public hearings. 8A, public hearing request from Luli and Julie, LLC, DBA Napoli's, 3333 Ramada Road, Suite B, Grand Island, Nebraska, for a Class I liquor license. Mrs. Grenier.
An application for a Class I liquor license was filed with the Liquor Control Commission and received by the city on November 13th, 2025. A notice to the general public of date, time, and place of hearing was published on December 20th, 2025. A notice to the applicant of date, time, and place of hearing was mailed on November 18th, 2025, along with Chapter 4 City Code alcoholic beverages. Departmental reports were received as required by City Code, and recommendation is to approve upon final inspection. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed.
Council, is there a motion on Resolution 2025-435? Mr. Brown.
We approve 2025 TAC 435.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lanfear. Thank you. Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Public hearing 8B, public hearing concerning the redevelopment plan amendment of Area Number 1 for 309 West 2nd Street, the Chamber Building, Starkle Real Estate, Inc. Mr. Nabity.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The item before you this evening is a tax increment financing project. This is a request for 20 years of TIF, $609,000 over the course of that 20 years. The Starkles are not here this evening. They would have been here on December 16th, but had plans for December 20th, or 30th, excuse me, that they were unable to modify so that they could be here. Amos Anson is working with them and did help them prepare their application, and Amos is here if you have any specific questions for them. This is for redevelopment of the Chamber Building. As many of you know, there is a significant amount of what was previously or is currently unused space on that second floor. They're proposing to put 8 one-bedroom apartments up there, 2 one-bedroom apartments on the first floor. The reason we end up with one-bedroom apartments on the first floor is for accessibility reasons. It isn't practical to put an elevator in that building and affordable to put an elevator in that building, but if they put the 2 units on the first floor, they meet the accessibility guidelines for the right ratio. The other space there, the front 2 spaces will be commercial offices. The Starkles run a couple of businesses out of Norfolk that they actually have businesses here in Grand Island, and they were looking for space, office space for those businesses here in Grand Island. So they are looking to build that out for their own office space. The total investment in this is about $2 million. It's a little over $2 million. They are requesting the $609,000 in TIF. Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this and did find that it is consistent with the Comprehensive Development Plan. The CRA has recommended approval, and if you approve this evening, we will send it forward for contracts to be drawn up and completion of this.
Thank you, Mr. Nabity.
Public hearing is now open. Amos, did you want to speak, or just if they have questions? Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed.
Council, a motion is in order. Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. I move that we approve 2025-436.
Mrs. Mendoza.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And for discussion, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, Chad, Just seems like a lot, 600,000 for 2 million investment. It seems like 30%, huh?
That's usually what downtown projects end up at. If you look at historically where the downtown projects have ended up, it really does end up being right at that 25 to 30%.
Are they requiring a fire system in there,
Yes.
sprinkler system?
Yes,
And it currently doesn't have any?
does not have one.
Mr. Nickerson?
And I think Doug just touched on that. I think, Amos, I'm going to go ahead and have you come up for a second here, too, but I know in the CRA meeting, I made the statement, right when I think we're running out of places for one-bedroom apartments, Amos finds a place to get some more one-bedroom apartments. So it's amazing to see you filling up. So come on up for a second here, and I don't remember if I asked in the meeting, about how many square feet are each of these apartments?
They're just a freckle smaller than the ones at the Hetty Building. They're a variety of different sizes, and I helped the Starkles pick out, originally they wanted 2 bedrooms and they were really big, and I helped them see what rents the best in downtown Grand Island. So they're 600 to 800 square feet.
Which is about equivalent to the Yancey's. A lot of the Yancey apartments are around 600. The one-bedrooms are about 600 square feet or so, I think. And so that's in line with that. And then you've got the life safety grant request, which will come with this. So that's another 15 times 8, $120,000. And we're repurposing a building that's really been sitting there for quite some time now without a heck of a lot of use. So that's a good thing for us. Parking across the street, I'm assuming, is just adequate for what we need for that?
Yep, they're way more lucky than I am at the Hetty Building. They actually have parking right close to their building, so yep.
Okay. And any idea, I don't know if you've talked about it, what you think the rent rate will be? It may be varied based on a little bit of the square footage, or is it pretty consistent?
It's in the packet, but it's right around $1,200. That's the sweet spot for downtown for a new apartment.
Okay.
It'd be nice to get a lot more, but that's the realistic number.
All right. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. Chad, has this property received any prior funding for facade or anything else?
Yes, there was another projects grant to do the facade on the building when the chamber owned it, going back to 2022, and that was $290,000 that the CRA invested in this, and quite frankly is probably part of the reason that the Starkles are interested in the building, because it does have a nice modern facade on it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, my computer keeps jumping. Jack, you made the motion, right? And Maggie seconded it? Yep. All right, please vote. Motion adopted.
Resolution 9A, approving replacement of 3 boilers and control system at the Heartland Event Center. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. Council, before you is a replacement. It's a contract with Sourcewell through Honeywell. It's replacing boilers B2, B3, and B4. There's actually 5 boilers at the facility. One is still working, one is just completely gone. So for this contract, we're looking at $1,975,045. Thank you.
Jay Vavicek, would you like to speak?
Once again, it somewhat seems odd to speak here in between holidays, but nonetheless appreciate your leadership in the council meeting tonight. Just questions on this item. I understand the packet, this is recommended from a consultant, so I would just ask a couple things. What's the urgency of this item? Is it operational, or is this something that could potentially be delayed somewhat? So that's the first question, Mr. Brown.
So we are down to one boiler, and if that goes, we're in lots of trouble.
Okay. Then secondly, under the $1.9 million replacement, what's the funding source that would go ahead and be used for this?
We were going to procure probably bond proceeds. There will be further asks of council for the Heartland Event Center. Namely, we couldn't put it under the Sourcewell like a state contract because of competitive bidding, but we're looking at lights, sound, the vestibule, and other such items that will be coming forth to council very soon, and I hope to kind of wrap it all up into one bundle.
Okay, because I assume the $1.9 million wasn't any capital improvement budget that was approved for next year's budget.
Right.
So the $1.9 million funding sources would be eligible, and it's kind of coincidental because it also appears on an item where you're looking at Chapter 23 to potentially increase lodging taxes. So with that in mind, I just raised the question of the $2 million to go ahead and fund it. Why couldn't other revenue streams be used? Casino revenue might be a logical explanation, and I've never heard how many dollars you anticipate the city would receive from casino revenue. But then you go on and on from Keno to food and beverage to property taxes to on and on and on. It just brings up the fact that it sounds like it's recommended and needs to occur, but in light of the presentation and council packets, that's why I raised the question for public awareness. So funding at this point has not been determined yet. Is that correct?
So the projected funding is tied to the next item, which is the hotel occupation tax. So all of these repairs that need to be done, depending on council discretion, obviously, adds up to $11 to $12 million. So it's a $800,000 payment for 20 years, and the incremental part of this hotel occupation tax covers that payment. So this is kind of the way I'm looking at this.
Okay. Why raise the question? Thank you.
Mr. Lanfear.
I move we approve Resolution 2025-437.
Thank you, Mr. Lanfear. Mr. Conley.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion, Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. So I just want to follow up with what was just talked about. 1.9 million that we'd be approving the expense for tonight with this action. But that is dependent upon the next action for funding. If that funding doesn't happen on the other one, is there a backup plan for funding this?
Yes, I have a contingency built into the budget.
Okay. Cool.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Ordinance 10A, consideration of ordinance to amend Chapter 23, Article 6 of Grand Island City Code. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I'm sorry. First of all, is there a motion to suspend the statutory rules? Mr. Lanfear?
I move that we suspend the state statutory rules concerning ordinances.
Thank you, and Mr. Brown?
I second that motion.
Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Mr. Brown, please present on this.
Thank you, Mayor. So as everyone knows, our hotel occupation tax expires December 31st, 2025. Administration is proposing of renewing this tax at a 5% level. Currently, the 2% is being used for Heartland Event Center operations, any shortcomings that they may have. The hotel occupation tax is a tax paid by visitors to hotels or other facilities in the city of Grand Island. The total amount of hotel occupation tax revenue in fiscal year 25 was $574,215. In the near future, City Council will be presented, including this agenda, with several deferred maintenance items. On August 19th, 2025, replacement chillers were ordered for a purchase price of $1.2 million. Other items City Council will be presented with is arena lighting replacement of $1 million, lighting replacement other than arena, $698,000, sound replacement system of $1.1 million. We are seeking a grant for the ice rink revival, and that's at $2 million. Roof replacement of $974,000 and a vestibule of $951,000. So all these in total is approximately $11 million in maintenance. So administration is proposing a 20-year bond, and it would require an annual payment of $800,000. The additional 3% of the hotel occupation tax would provide the funding for these repairs for the next 20 years. Below is each percentage of the hotel occupation tax equals approximately $250,000. And so in the packet, there is a calculation on hotel occupation tax. I will not go through it at this time, but it was provided by Brad Melma, very detailed. And so for a $100 room, I'll just summarize this, for a $100 room with a 3% increase going to 5%, it'd be a $3.38 increase to the visitor for paying for a $100 hotel room. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Katulak?
Let's see, the next person, Carla Jeans.
My name is Carla. I have
Your last name, please?
Jenis. I have been in hospitality, what I call world, for about 12 years now, and I have been 7 years of those have been a GM for a property here in Grand Island as well. And so I have been pretty much on the front lines of hearing how high taxes are. And I have seen and I have heard guests complain, yell, scream absurdity to our employees, our staff, of saying, why are taxes so high? We have no answer. The hotels have no answer. I'm not here to speak for every hotel. I get a little concerned with them being that, I mean, we're raising them, we're at 14.75% right now, and you're raising it another 19% on hotel taxes? Why are hotelers having to foot the bill for a center, which we all use, I know we do, we all go and see concerts, but again, why is it put on the hotelers? The hotelers have paid for that for the first, 20 years now? They put into that, they paid for that. Why, like Mr. Vavricek noted, why can't why can't everybody pay for it? Why can't 1-2% go to food and beverage? Foot some of the bill for that. I'm not sure if all of you realize not all hotels are busy 12 months of the year. All hotels are busy May through August or September, but not October, November, December, January. If we don't have anything here in Grand Island, some of those smaller hotels doesn't have any business. So that creates a trickle-down effect for the employees. So then they have to let employees go, or they have to shorten their hours. Is that fair? Just because we want to raise taxes to pay for to pay for a building? I get it. I understand that, everything's the cost of it. But Grand Island is thriving. Grand Island is a tourism city. We want people to come to Grand Island. We want them to enjoy what we have. And we have the best of the best, I think. We have a great up north. It's beautiful up north. Down south by the new hospital, it's beautiful down there. That's thriving down there. So thank you. I am just concerned of the high cost in that. And I just wish that we would all realize what it takes for those frontline people to get the guest in, to get the business in to these hotels, and what it takes. Because it's hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your perspective.
Brad Malama?
Thank you. Brad Mellema, Grand Island Tourism. And to clarify, it's not a 5% increase, it's a 3% increase. The current two up to so I wrote down some things. Typically, I would speak more off the cuff or bullet pointed, but I want to keep specific to what I wanted to say. First of all, I do not represent specific hotels. I represent the tourism industry as a whole and want to make that clear. Grand Island's built a world-class facility in the Heartland Event Center. And Kyler and his team have done an outstanding job in the past year building events and hosting events, and we see compliment after compliment. It's the staff and not the stuff that makes the difference, and their staff is really getting it done, and we support that. I want to know that before I get into some of the nitty-gritty of the conversation here. The proposal before you tonight represents more than an increase in occupancy taxes. An increase to a 5% hotel occupancy tax is effectively an admission that the improvements needed on this campus cannot be made without additional tax revenue, particularly at Fauner Park, whether the buildings are city-owned or not. It takes tax money to do the things that you're trying to do with Heartland Event Center and the other buildings that are there as well. And we'll get into the specifics of that in just a second. This reality deserves an honest conversation, and we don't want to hide behind technicalities. We want to get it. The elephant in the room is it's really hard to work with the parties simultaneously. It is not just a city thing, not just a CVB thing, not just a Fauner Park thing, not just any particular thing. It's private business all coming together to make this work. I want to be very clear. You cannot govern from what you can't do under statute. We have statutes and codes. I understand your world is that. But to really govern on what should be done as a community. So the real policy decision in front of you tonight question is not the increase of this use, whether it's legally permissible or not. We believe it is. A focused, team-oriented solution can get us to this end. Multiple issues are being discussed, and so that is a complicated thing. Remember, fixing a building is not the same thing as fixing tourism. Two different things. Capital improvements, while important, are not the same as protecting the demand for tourism in our community. Tourism is an ecosystem. When you tax one part of it without protecting the source of the demand, you create unintended consequences. Livestock shows are a primary source of hospitality revenue in our city. If the source of overnight demand is not supported, the shows will go dark. And once those events leave, they don't come back for years and years. Feed the source, don't tax the source. Hotels are not a limitless funding mechanism. They're the collection point for this tax, as Carla talked about, but they're also the first to feel the consequences when pricing, perception, competitive advantages change. They're the front lines. They really are. This is visitor-generated tax revenue collected by hotels on behalf of the city. That distinction matters. Hotels have already contributed millions of dollars over decades. Any additional burden should come with strict guardrails, accountability, and a clear return on investment. Since the inception of the current 2% that's been place for the past 20 years, hotels have generated nearly $7 million for the operation of the Heartland Event Center, and another $2 million came from the Visitor Improvement Fund through our office. That's $9 million. If I understand right, the city paid for approximately a third of that building. The rest was private donations and these types of funds. Okay? Keep that in mind that these funds came from a lot of sources. Hotel occupancy tax is not a donation. It is an investment that requires a return on investment. We compete with facilities and communities that are watching what you're doing tonight. The associations that use the facilities are paying attention to that tax perception that we have. We do not agree with the city's current interpretation of how to broadly tax how broadly this tax should be used under state statute. Broadening the scope invites future councils to spend these funds in ways that may have little or no impact on hotel occupancy. Once that language is in code, it's really difficult to undo that or back it out. Be careful with the words and the phrasings that you approve tonight. On your code 23-61, it is the intent of City Council that city shall use the revenue generated by the occupancy tax imposed by this article to fund the maintenance, repair, and operation of city-owned facilities frequented by out-of-town visitors, such as, but not limited to, the Heartland Event Center, or to service debt issued in support of this intent. So it's pretty much wide open. And how do you determine what that visitor need is? Do you need a new traffic signal in front of the tennis complex? Who decides whether that's tourism use or not? Be very careful with that broad language and what those unintended consequences could be, and look at that as an investment in tourism so that our hoteliers can reap those benefits. You're not simply voting on a tax rate, you are deciding how Grand Island values tourism, partnerships, and long-term competitiveness. I live, eat, and breathe tourism. It's my job to protect this community's reputation in a highly competitive market and to ensure the decisions made here help us grow and not retreat. I respectfully ask you to slow this down, rework this proposal, and engage in a broader conversation with the hospitality community about funding responsibility, equity, and return on investment before making a decision that cannot be easily reversed. Going to 5% without a well-thought plan isn't a strategy. It's basically funding a problem that you have. You have this issue of this building that needs, I understand, I want that Heartland Event Center to be first class. I get it. But listening to like Carla's comments, for example, what is the plan? Okay? It fixes an issue, but to what end? To the hospitality community. In short, I'm concerned about that jump to 5%. We would be equal with Omaha in the highest occupancy tax in Nebraska. That's the reputation that would be in front of us as we're trying to bring events to this town. That's my comments for this evening. Available for any questions or the next comment.
Junior Robeck. Jay?
Well, thank you, Jill. As you know, I'm very supportive of all the efforts that the city has undertaken in recent years. Unbelievable. Supportive of this administration. But I'm concerned that I don't support the ordinance as it's presented. And it's difficult for me to go ahead and elaborate without, well, first, acknowledging the fact that 25 years ago, this council chamber was packed when we had a discussion about increasing lodging taxes 2%. In fact, Mayor Kent at that time said only 5 people could speak for, 5 could speak against. And there is no limitation for people to come forward tonight. So I appreciate that openness, Mayor Steele and Mr. Brown, for allowing comments to be fully expressed. And I don't have really a dog in the fight. Years ago, someone said the best tax is a tax that someone else pays for. So if I don't have any lodging taxes to be paid for at a hotel, I guess I'm not paying for them. But I'm concerned about our community's ability to compete. And when you talk about the fact that years ago, if I proposed as mayor then, we're going to have a 150% increase in taxes, I don't know if anyone would have supported that. At this point, 2% has been dedicated for the Heartland Event Center. And I don't know if the lodging industry would object to maintaining the 2%. But when you look at the lodging tax ordinance, which is somewhat camouflaged in some circles' perspective, because it said we're going to have a discussion on Chapter 23 of the City Code. It doesn't say anything about increasing lodging taxes another 3% or another 150%. But when you look at the extra 3%, knowing as the ordinance is written, that it could go towards city facilities that frequent out-of-town visitors. This does not benefit the Heartland Event Center. It probably doesn't benefit Fauner Park. But why would the city now want to potentially have more revenue to fund improvements that the council's already made? Island Oasis redevelopment, Heartland Public Shooting Park. You go on and on, all those different things. The improvements at the water parks, as well as all of the splash pads. I mean, there's literally many things in our community under the way the ordinance is written where 3% could go ahead and be dedicated. I don't think it almost looks like the fact that there isn't a need there, but because there's an allowance under state law to go ahead and expand it to 5%, let's get while the getting's good. And I don't think that's the message that you want to send. I don't think a 150% increase in lodging taxes is warranted without a dialogue from the very providers that collect it. And with that in mind, I can't speak for the lodging tax industry, but we're second to Kearney. Okay, let's just face it. We're second to Kearney, outstanding community, and fantastic facilities, and this community has lured significant investments from people in Kearney to locate here, and we're now going to have 600 more hotel rooms this year than we did last year. The ordinance, in my estimation, does nothing about promoting more occupancy. In fact, it probably hinders occupancy, where we would have a larger availability of more rooms and less people using them. If we have less people coming to Grand Island to spend an overnight stay, what's going to happen? We're going to have less sales tax collection, less purchases, less satisfaction, and a conscious thought of if we're trying to lure livestock exhibitions and multi-stay things like the 4-H horseshoe event and so forth, it's going to be tougher to compete with other rival communities when we have higher taxes. So I think we ought to be thinking, okay, or you ought to be considering, if you maintain the 2%, I don't know if there's any objection to that, to Heartland Event Center. And in some respects, VenueWorks is here, and they made a proposal here several months ago, if not a year ago, that said they're going to double and triple revenues at the Heartland Event Center. If they double and triple revenues, then once again, does that mean there's going to be the same degree of support needed of the 2%, let alone potentially having more money on 3%? So when I go down this whole road, it also brings up the fact that tourism is so important, and trying to discuss ways that we can go ahead and broaden that support and have more visitors, what we ought to be focusing on, rather than potentially having a 150% increase in lodging taxes that will make us, in our community, in my estimation, probably, and maybe hotel owners could step forward and say it, is this going to make us more competitive, or is it going to hurt our ability to have more rooms used? Is it going to hurt our ability to have more people stay overnight in Grand Island? But then finally, in conclusion, here we are the last day of the year on having a council meeting, and sometimes there's unintended consequences that occur of some of the smallest things. I would hate to have this consequent impact a multi-million-dollar industry. Some could say it's kind of like the golden goose. You know, we all know the story of the golden goose. We're laid a golden egg each and every day, and all of a sudden, out of greed and also aggravation, they killed the golden goose. I would hope that this ordinance, if it's passed to 5%, does not hurt the golden goose of tourism that is also a part of our pillars of our community. And then finally, once again, because this impacts our economic well-being, in my estimation, as Mr. Brad brought up, having some time to discuss this. Does the Chamber of Commerce have an input? EDC, Economic Development, have an input? Do citizens have an input? But to go ahead and place another tax increase, to me, it just seems like there ought to be a better solution.
Well, your position is, if there is an occupation tax going forward, it remain at 2%.
I think history shows that 2% has been well served. Beyond that, I don't think there's support beyond the 2%, in my estimation.
We get pressure from outside groups who want some of the money. So then we have people saying, be careful how much you tax, but then others saying, give me some. So you see the conflict and the balancing act the council has to deal with.
Right. Well, you know, and once again, we need livestock shows, and coming up with some type of revenue stream to provide incentives and combat that, as I understand, cannot occur from lodging taxes, but that could occur from Grow Grand Island, maybe the food and beverage taxes. But once again, Mayor Steele, casino revenue. If you have people using and being taxed and providing Hall County and the city with Keno revenue, that may be a revenue stream that could be dedicated for tourism, just unlike other general fund things. But the last thing is, if this 5% is implemented, then it also creates an unfair playing field in that establishments outside of Grand Island may be taxed at a different rate than a higher rate in Grand Island. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for leadership, each one of you.
Jamie Parr, did you want to speak?
Thank you so much for your time. And Mayor, I understand what you're saying. I go back and forth with that in my head, being a part of being 1/3 of the entity that has brought livestock shows to Grand Island over the last 14 or 15 years. We do hear from the exhibitors that hotel rooms are too expensive in Grand Island. It's a very common reason that a livestock show might choose not to come here. However, those livestock shows do bring a lot of tourism. We also hear Carla up here saying the hotels are full in May through September. I can say that if livestock shows go away, and I venture to say that they probably will if we don't find enough funding to support them. If the livestock shows do go away, Carla can shorten her occupancy of full to probably August and September. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do ask you to consider, if you are considering to increase the lodging tax, I ask you to consider to diversify how that money can be spent, and consider helping find a solution for the livestock shows that do want to come to Grand Island, Nebraska. They do want to use those facilities. They do need support from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They do need the hotels that have been built recently to help offer competitive rates. They bring a lot to our community, and I'm here just to express that, I guess. Also, if you have any questions about Gilka or how the livestock shows began, it doesn't seem like this is the point in time to go through that, but I'm always available to talk about that and how important I believe that they are for our community.
And you mentioned diversifying the income that could be used for livestock shows. Livestock shows are right up the State Fair street. Is the State Fair willing to participate? financially?
Sir, the State Fair has participated
I mean
for
in the
all of
future.
the years to date. The State Fair donated about 10 years' worth of labor and resources to put on those shows. It became apparent that the fair could no longer afford to give that type of investment to shows that didn't support our mission statement. So the State Fair also most recently has put in $25,000 a year, as have the other partners of Gilka, in order to keep Gilka afloat and not be in the red. It's a balance that has to be found. Almost all of the other venues that produce livestock shows or that book livestock shows are funded somehow by a municipality. We've talked about livestock shows for many years, and this really is an opportunity, and we are really getting to the point in time where something needs to change or the shows will not be able to.
Yes, but I want to understand, going forward, the State Fair will not be a contributor to the financing of livestock shows. Is that correct?
The State Fair would like to not contribute automatic $25,000 to maintain livestock shows. We do believe that those who benefit from the livestock shows, which would be this community, if you define that as a city or a county or the state, we're open to all of those solutions and hope that we can come together to create something sustainable that continues to bring livestock shows and tourism from out of state to Grand Island, Nebraska.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Kudalek, did you want to speak now?
Thank you all. Chris Kutulak, CEO of Fauner Park. Despite being first on the list to speak tonight, I appreciate you allowing me to not speak first. I was hopeful I wouldn't have to speak, but I was hopeful that those who spoke before me would carry a cornucopia of messages, and they have. Everyone that stood up here and spoke specifically about their interest, but how it should be the major concern of the city of Grand Island. And I will do the same thing. The December 9th council meeting, I canceled plans to be at a global horse racing symposium, but I sent all of you an email really explaining some things about the plight of the livestock show in Grand Island. And nothing has changed there. You all have that email, so I won't drill down on that. Jamie did an excellent job touching on her position and her role of the State Fair about the importance of what the livestock shows bring to Grand Island. And certainly Carla did, Brad did, and others did as well. I do come forward to speak tonight, however, as a matter of clarification rather than to be punitive. And I say that because I want to go back 3 years, at least 3 years ago, when discussions began with city administrator and the mayor about the Heartland Event Center and the management contract that Fauner had that was going to run out at the end of 2024. And we were an open book for more than 2 years explaining what the situation was at the Heartland Event Center. We talked about repairs that we made. We've made millions of dollars of repair there. We talked about service contracts that were in play. We revealed inspection reports. None of this is a surprise, this $11 million that Patrick talked about things that need to happen at Heartland Event Center. I'm aware of it. Others should have been aware of it. I want nothing more than the success of Heartland Event Center and Kyler and his role. I've said that all along. What's good for Heartland Event Center is good for Fauner Park. Those are big numbers. And I just, as others have spoke here also, I don't think maybe tonight is the night to make a final decision on things that are going to be very important to Grand Island. So that was my reflection back to 3 years ago. And if there is any, I hope there is no punitive viewpoint towards Fauner Park in the way we managed the Heartland Event Center. We did it on a bare bones approach to handling business. It was difficult, it was risky, and when we had the opportunity to not manage it anymore, we decided that was going to be the best choice. My Heartland Event Center Board, my Fauner Park Event Center Board, and I endorsed that idea. So Venue Works came along, and they have it, and I wish them all the best of luck, despite all of those, the massive numbers to make that venue go. For years, we've been visiting with city leaders, senators, others in town about the plight of the livestock show and how the model for these shows is broken, it's not working, it's a sinking ship. Well, the ship has sunk, and Fauner Park can't handle it anymore. State Fair has given their position on it as well. And we've had a variety of meetings with various people at various locations in the last year alone. Last month, Jack Sheard called a meeting in the Hetty Building, and he had many of you here that were in that meeting, some that weren't at the meeting that aren't here as well. And every option we brought up for a way of finding money to help these livestock shows was shot down. Carrie Fisk was there, and frankly, I was very impressed with Carrie's knowledge of the situation, the things we were asking for. She was very quick to say, yep, I know, but no, it can't work this way because of this or that. And I appreciated that. She seemed to have a very good command on that, and I think she does. But subsequent to that meeting, I expressed some of the things that occurred in that meeting, and I believe there are contrary legal opinions to what Carrie said, which brings me back to those things need to be sussed out, and to make a decision, a sweeping decision for this 5% tax, an increase from 2%, I think really leaves the livestock shows in the lurch. And maybe a consideration that this council will have to face is how do you handle $5 to $10 million shortfall, because the economic studies reveal 2 that were done last year in a Hereford show. It brought over $2 million in revenue to the city. An Australian cattle dog show brought similar numbers. I'm starting to go back to that email that I sent you almost a month ago, so I'll stop right there. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do want you to consider something that is for livestock shows, however you get there.
Well, one thing that's been said is we need to search out a variety of funding sources. The State Fair has said, we're out. Again, I think since the county can do ag societies and put on livestock shows, it's right up the county's street. I don't think they'll participate. What say Fauner Park? As far as a funding source, is Fauner Park going to join the city and help fund livestock shows?
Well, we're in the process of doing that right now. We are in the process of losing money doing those shows, so no would be the answer.
So the funding source you're looking for is just the city?
We have spelled out our needs for $550,000. We have entities in the city that have said they are willing to come forward with a portion of that, specifically the EDC. We've had conversations with them as well. It doesn't have to be entirely one element of the city. It can be a consortium, and I've spelled that out also as well.
And as somebody in the visitor and tourism trade, do you stand with Mayor Vavricek that the tax, if it's imposed, should be 2% or something else?
I would see an increase could make sense. Certainly, you've got a building that you need to pay for and make repairs and upgrades. I understand that. But you also have livestock shows that are tremendously important, and possibly, I would have to say, certainly bring more money than what the Heartland Event Center is currently bringing in, certainly based on expenses to operate that building.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Mr. Hossie.
I have a motion to approve ordinance number 10055.
Thank you, Mr. Hossie. Mr. Brown?
Second that motion.
Thank you, sir. And discussion, Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing I want to do is I want to make a motion to amend ordinance number 10055, page 285, section 23-61, by removing the words "city-owned."
Can I second that?
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
The second thing I wanted to add about the economic development, this is all about economic development. The city does economic development in a number of different ways. And we want to see the city grow. We want to see a lot of positive activity. We want to see the occupancy rate at hotels up. You know, and that's the whole thing. The one thing the city doesn't have is we don't have an economic development department. So we rely on the EDC. We rely on the community in its large, all of the community involved. That's why these discussions are so important. When we have good economic development and things happen in the city of Grand Island, the city the beneficiaries of the city become the lodging tax, the food and beverage tax, the sales tax, and the casino tax. So the lodging tax is because we want to bring in activities that puts people in beds in hotels. So the hotels, their occupancy goes up when we do activities, or Heartland Event Center, or somebody else does an activity. The food and beverage, because these people who come to Grand Island, they buy meals. And the sales tax is pretty obvious that everything they buy from top to bottom, we're the benefactor of all of that. And the casino, when we have more activity going on anywhere in Grand Island, the casino gets more activity. And so they're the benefactor as well. So from my view on our economic development, we have 4 different buckets of activity that are generating tax revenue. Now, how do you divide and conquer, like Carla said? Should it all be on one? And it isn't. It isn't all on one. Tonight, we're only talking about the lodging tax, and it's going to go to 0 at midnight tomorrow. Okay, so we've got to do something as a council. And this conversation, it's very good, and it needs to happen. We still haven't had the discussion of how do you do what shows? How do we do the Heartland Event Center? This was a proposal, how do we do the Heartland Event Center, 11 million, but maybe that's not, maybe it doesn't all come from one. We haven't had the 11 million come in front of the council yet and say we've had 1.9, but we haven't had 11 million come in front of the council. So the council has future decisions to look at on how do we do all the stuff that needs to happen at the Heartland Event Center. We have future decisions about what do we do with the livestock show, the past Gilka stuff, because bringing in national shows to Grand Island is great for the community. It's great for everybody who's a part of this thing. It just brings in people to the community, and they're in hotel rooms, they're in the restaurants. Everybody is the beneficiary of when we have those. A national event here is just an awesome ability for us to have because we have the facilities here. So I removed the city-owned because there are facilities in Grand Island that when the cheerleaders come, they don't all just use one facility. They probably use the high school. I don't know. They probably use many facilities. So it's not about, one facility. This is about how do we have an economic development arm. But tonight, our only question is about the lodging tax. And we have to do something as a council, or it goes to 0 tomorrow night at midnight. The question is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Well, tonight it's 5. And I'd like to hear other members of the council. I'd be willing to listen to other members' thoughts on what the right number should be if it isn't 5.
Mr. Nickerson.
My first question is, do we have to do something tonight? Do we have to do something tonight? Because we've had 2 weeks. This is to sunset tonight, or sunset at midnight tomorrow night. then I understand without something in place, we'll just have that dead time until something's decided. That could be 2 weeks, it could be 4 weeks, and that will cost us, on average, $48,000 a month if we do nothing until we come to a better decision. So that's my first question. Do we have to do something tonight?
No.
Okay. Asked and answered. So when I listen to the proposals tonight, there's a lot of things I've learned, and I appreciate everybody's comments. I appreciate, Brad, the letter that you sent. Yesterday, I was asking questions of Pat and Carrie to try to get my mind wrapped around this as well, and they did a great job responding. But I think it's too much to come to a good decision tonight. I think there's too many muddy pieces here that we can come up with a better solution, the best solution. And I'm not sure that adding 3% is that best solution tonight to a lodging tax. I think we need to look at all of our options. And when we look at the net requests, what are we really looking for? Oh, and I also see Carlos sitting here. Carlos, you do not have to sit here for the rest of this meeting if you'd want. Okay, because yours was approved. Just want to let you know, not everybody enjoys this stuff. All right. Good for you. You're a trooper. All right, so we need to sort through the weeds on this thing. And as I look at really what the request is tonight, overall, the reason that we're asking for a 3% increase is for revenue to cover a bond. That's really what we're looking for. That number, based on the information I had, was about $800,000 a year for 20 years. Does all $800,000 have to come from a lodging tax? Not necessarily. So I think there are options. To Chuck's point, is 3 the right number? I don't think 3 is the right number. I wonder, as I noodle through this in my head again, really wishing more for a study session to really get into the nitty-gritty than what we're going to be able to do tonight. You know, what if you had 1% increase, and then we have roughly a $500,000 revenue source we need to find? Where's that $500,000 come from? So I think we have options. I think we need to be careful and not think we have to do something tonight. Yes, it will cost us something in the short term, but I think in the long term it's going to give us a better decision. I had no idea that our total taxes was 14.75%, because when we're living in our world, we're only looking at this little segment. You see? We're only looking at raising this from 2 to 5, but we're not, as a council, necessarily aware of all these other taxes that come into that bill that the customer pays. And I just came back from a week in Colorado in Colorado Springs, and my room rate, they said, was very favorable at $55 a night before all the taxes. Okay, when it was all said and done, it was $60-some a night. I sorted through it a little bit to say, okay, what did all this amount to? Interestingly enough, Colorado Springs occupancy tax is only 2%. That surprised me, but there are plenty of other taxes that took that 55 up to over $60-some a night. We need to be aware that we're not the only person asking for money from the lodging industry, and we've got to look at that cumulatively and see what is the best way to find this $800,000. I don't disagree that part of that can come from lodging tax. I do agree that we don't want to broaden the scope of this to where we potentially create problems in the future where somebody says, well, I think we can use this money for this, this, and this. We need to be as clear as possible, and I appreciate the hotel groups helping us understand that. The question comes, is other money coming, to help us with these projects? And the answer is yes. The food and beverage tax does help some of the things that we've been talking about tonight. The food and beverage tax helps cover a match for the state fair. That brings in a lot of people, over 300,000. They don't all spend the night here, but it brings in a lot of bodies. We have quality of life issues that affect sports that do bring people in. That's part of our food and beverage tax. That's helping put heads in beds. We do have money through Grow Grand Island and other things that do help the livestock shows. And if I'm wrong, somebody tell me, but I think they're part of their mission now is trying to help generate funds to help make that happen. So money from food and beverage is helping us do what you're asking. It is getting those heads in the beds, and we want to do that. but we also may have to look at some additional help from lodging. I think 3% may be too big of an ask, but I personally cannot make that decision tonight. I will not be supporting it as it is tonight, because I think we can do better. I think we have to talk through all the issues here and just make sure we're doing the right thing, realizing that we're not the only entity requesting money from the lodging group. There's a lot of different things out here as I tallied these up, as you showed us tonight. At the end of the day, does $3 on a $100 room be a deal breaker? I don't know. I don't know that, but I just want to be able to look at the whole picture and make the best decision possible. And I think we can do better than that. I'm not going to say almost, I would prefer to have a study session to where we could actually talk through this in detail. But I will not be supporting it tonight as it is, because I think we have time to make a better decision.
Mr. Stelp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too agree a lot with what Mitch said, had the same thoughts in that, and also with Chuck on his input. I think this is too much of a big issue. It's too complicated to make the decision tonight. I think we need a study session to kind of talk where the money's going to come from. I kind of felt in my talks during the week that this would also include money from food and beverage. It doesn't. I don't think the lodging tax can support it. So I'd like to make a motion to table this for 1 week, and that the administration come back with some ideas on how to come with a better lodging tax so we're not taxing our motels to death and running the business off. So that's my motion.
Are you wanting to table it for a week or until the next council meeting? The next council meeting would be January 13th. We don't have a meeting in 1 week.
What's the recommendation of staff?
I'd ask you to table it until the next council meeting.
Till the next, okay.
Yes.
Which would be January 13th.
All right, we'll do that.
Mr. Landfair.
I second that motion. I agree.
Discussion? Mr. Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. This is to both that motion and all of this. If we table this, I guess my first question is, does that give us time to gather more information in 2 weeks? And what information do we need to gather?
That is a great question. I don't know what information more we would gather, quite honestly. I believe it was Brad or Chris mentioning something about other opinions, legal opinions, maybe forward that to Carrie. That's the only thing I can think of.
Because I'm not against holding off. Matter of fact, I had more feedback probably on this, maybe even than the Good Life District. And part of it was that they didn't know this was coming because it, as Jay said, it doesn't say anything about a hotel tax. You have to know what Chapter 23, Article 6 of Grand Island City Code is, which I didn't either until I dug deeper to find out where's the hotel tax thing. I thought we were going to talk about that. So I totally understand those comments that came my way. Question I have, I guess, if we're going to continue the conversation, Carrie, for you, the way this has been amended so far, that we're removing the city-owned part, if that were to pass tonight or in 2 weeks, does that in any way, the way it's now we're being asked to vote on, this motion, this article, does it in any way prohibit us from using this, what would then be 5% of hotel occupancy tax on tourism to support Fauner Park's not Funner Park, but the Funner X, the Gilka, the livestock shows. Does this motion do anything to suppress that?
The motion to remove city-owned facilities frankly doesn't have any legal impact at all. Our occupation tax authority is a statutory creation, which, given the specificity of the statute, is available for the payment of debts and expenses of the city. So whether it says city-owned facilities or not, we're still limited by law to debts and expenses of the city. So it really has no legal effect at all.
I think what you're saying is we can't modify by city code what is required by state statute.
Correct, yeah. So whether those words are there or not, it doesn't change our legal authority. I think
Okay,
it
give
might
me a
be
second.
it might be helpful to note this is an occupation tax, not a lodging tax, so it has a very specific set of rules. It is an occupation tax imposed on hotels, but it is different than the state and county lodging taxes, which do have that tourism mandate here. So there are some slightly different rules at play between these two types of taxes on hotel services. And so we're very much limited by the authority of state statute for what we can use these special taxes and assessments for. In particular, this restriction has been in place since 1901, unchanged, that limits these other taxes unless there's a specific statutory authority to those payments of debts and expenses of the city. Some of our taxing revenue has extra authorities. The Good Life District tax, for example, has a lot more permissible purposes. This one is very narrow to payments of debts and expenses of the city. So this particular type of tax does not solve for I think that second part of the question, which is, can we use this money for something else?
But this particular motion, let's say, hypothetically, the other stuff you said, hogwash, okay? Let's say, well, Chris thinks that maybe he's got a different opinion. If that is accurate, is there anything we'd be voting on this language tonight that prevents, if your other opinion's wrong, does this specifically say we can't use it on Funner Park, on livestock shows?
No matter what language you put in the statute, it doesn't change anything. So this motion doesn't really change that there. One of the changes that has occurred to the occupation tax in general is it is much more amendable now than it was before. So you do, if the percentage you want changes, if the purposes change, if this other opinion shows up, even once imposed, this ordinance could then be amended at subsequent meetings in a way that it did not used to be able to. The legislature passed some new statutes that went into effect in June that made these changes much easier for a city council to effectuate rather than voters. So you do retain that ability to tinker whether you continue or not, whether you change language or not, all still limited out by the law. But if the concern is you have one bite at this apple and better have it perfect, that is no longer the state of the law with occupation taxes. You can come in and make changes a little more. You could do 5% now and change your mind and go back to 4% and then go up to 3%. Logistically, operationally, my guess is finance would not like that. But legally you can do that in a way that you could not do up before June of this year. So this can be a much more living ordinance than it used to be able to.
Okay.
The amendment. Yes, the amendment.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to get to whether or not we need the amendment or not. If we were to vote tonight, is it changeable? And if it's not changeable, then I agree with the amendment. But this sounds like we're not stuck in stone for something we do tonight. We could change it next month anyway, but it would keep it going. We could amend it to 2% to keep it going as is and come back and have the conversation down the line with more people at the table to get it to 3, 4, 5, whatever that number ends up being. But I guess on this motion, that's why this is relevant. Maybe we don't need this. Maybe the amendment needs to be to change it to 2 for now.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm against the motion to table. I am in favor of reducing the percentage and have a continuing conversation. But I don't want to lose, I don't want to go from 2 to 0 tomorrow. And so I think I'm against the motion to table.
Mr. Lanfear.
We've heard from quite a few people. I would say they would be called experts on what this possibly could do. I'd like to hear from more, though. That's the reason I backed this. I want to know how far this could reach. You know, it's only $3 on a $100 room, but there's an image. Every vacation town, tourist town has an image. Vegas has one. Atlantic City had one that failed, primarily because they priced themselves up too high. I really don't want the Grand Island to have the image that we're looking at visitors as cash cows that are going to support other projects. That's my main concern, and I'd like to hear what other people think about that.
Mr. Nickerson.
One of the things that I learned from Renee Edwards after sitting under her tutelage for many, many years is that the term we do not want to use in this, Mark, I'm just going to let you know that. Just, you do not want to say table it during this meeting. When you table it, that means you're laying it on the table and you're going to address it again before the meeting's over. So the right word we want to use is postpone. So to be Robert's Rules of Order accurate, I would just say that we do not want to use the word table, because table means we're going to still deal with it tonight. That's just a Robert's Rules of Orders thing that she embedded in me after many, many years. So just make sure that Mark's okay with that, because the word is postpone, not table. Okay, now let's talk about tabling it. Or postponing it. Let's talk about postponing it. Let's not table it. Postponing it to the next meeting is probably okay, because it does allow us a chance to still sort through some things over these next couple of weeks. So I guess I'm not 100% opposed to that. I'd rather see a study session to where we can really delve into our options rather than trying to make it all fit into one specific category tonight. I don't know that that's necessarily the right answer. I don't know that's the wrong answer. I don't know that's the right answer. Now, Chuck said if we don't do something tonight, you know, it goes to 0. Well, from what I understand, no matter what we do tonight, there's 2 weeks lag time where we cannot collect anything anyway. Is that correct, Carrie?
Yes, because the current occupation tax sunsets at midnight on December 31st. An ordinance you pass tonight has 15 days before it becomes effective. So a vote tonight, the ordinance would still have a January 1st through the 14th where it would not be imposed. Whenever you have your final vote, there's another 15-day delay after that before it can become effective.
Yeah, so say we're going to have 2 weeks where we can't collect anything anyway. And it doesn't bother me if we're going to lose a little bit of revenue here to try to find the best answer. And if we can come up with that best answer in 2 weeks or at our next meeting, I'm okay with that. Now, having said that, I kind of like what Chuck said too. You know, what if we just say, let's hold it at 2%, and then we regather and have more in-depth discussion, which now we lose maybe 2 weeks of revenue just because of the ordinance, and we're able to continue that revenue stream on day 15. That helps us there. So I'm okay with that too. I think it's a nice way to look at it. I don't think, before we leave tonight, I don't think it's smart to just say, let's slap another 3% without having further discussion as a group and go on from there. I also am interested in the fact of any controversial issues on Carrie's viewpoint versus somebody else's. It's always good to have multiple attorneys look at things, because one of my concerns was the way things are drafted now, and Carrie, some of her feedback was to me was that I'm not concerned with the way I have it drafted because I don't think there's any way it could happen down the road. Well, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, that's what you think, but what if the next attorney down the road here says, oh no, I've interpreted this differently. So that's where I think it's good to have all the attorneys at least flesh out that we're all on the same page on what can be used for, what can it be used for. And I know we're not there tonight. So again, worst case scenario, we may lose 2 weeks of potential revenue. Best case, we'll keep it going after the 2 weeks. So if we stick with the 2%. That's a long way of saying, am I for this or am I against it? And I'm still not sure whether I'm for postponing it or not. It would depend on if we turned around and said, is there a proposal on here for a 2%? So I guess we have to just vote on this up or down at this point, and then we'll go to the next step.
Mr. Conley.
So that's kind of what I was going to bring up, and Chuck beat me to it with continuing the 2%. I agree with that. I think we should, I don't know what we need to do, what type of motion, but I mean, 2 weeks would turn into 4 weeks, and then, the whole point of trying to up this tax is to make these repairs that the Heartland Event Center need. So I think delaying, the 2%, I think wouldn't be good. So I agree with Chuck and Mitch's comments here. So do we need to make a motion?
We have to vote on the postponement first.
Mr. Sheard.
Okay, thank you. So I'm clear. We're going to vote on this. My suggestion to everyone, or what I'm going to do, is vote no on this motion. And then if that were to fail, then we will make an amendment to change it to 2%. But I would hope that we would still have this on a very future agenda, like Mark is asking for, to continue the conversation to get where we can go. So I'll vote no to the amendment and then talk again.
Okay, so this is the motion to vote on postponing. Please vote. Motion failed.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move to amend the revised rate from 5% back to 2%.
Mr. Brown.
Second that motion.
Discussion, Mr. Sheard.
I meant to just make the motion, sorry. I didn't. I'm in favor of this. I think we've already said that.
Mr. Hossie.
Well, I think it's the best solution in front of us is to just try to sustain where we're at today, have the continued conversation, and please, I want to make sure the hotelers and everybody who's got a stake in this discussion be invited to the next one and know ahead of time, because we need your help to try to make this successful, because we're just trying to do economic development in the community.
Mr. Nickerson.
Carla, can I have you come up for a second here? I'm going to share with you something that really shocked me here many months ago. And so some things you told me tonight totally went contrary to what I was told many months ago. So Paul Eunice was here building some hotels here, and I was challenging him on, what about competition? What if you get a, surplus of rooms and now all the rates have to be adjusted and you can't get them filled? And his comment was, competition is good. Okay, so that's great. But the other thing they told me, and I'm going to ask my council colleagues here to test their memories as well, but this has stood in my brain for a long time. And I'm almost 99.9% sure that he said that there are 133 nights in Grand Island where all hotels are full. No, there's 133 nights where nobody could find a room, I think is what he told me. That's the same thing. 133 nights. Now, does that ring true to you? Because you're telling me now there's several months here where it's just kind of slim picking sometimes, and I guess I can understand that. But does that stuck with me that we were so packed, which prompted the need for more hotel rooms?
I respect Mr. Paul Eunice. He's an excellent business person. He knows what he's doing. He's been in that hospitality world forever and ever, and he's great at what he does. Did he happen to mention what months that he, okay.
No.
So the 133 nights, he's probably referring to probably 1 state fair time and 2 Husker Harvest days. Husker Harvest days, when they are in town for that 3 days, 4 days, they do fill Grand Island. And you cannot find a room, even when, if you, the closest you would probably find would be either York or out towards Kearney. So those are probably the 2 months, and again, I cannot speak for Mr. Eunice, but those are probably the 2 months he was referring to when he had said that 133 nights.
Okay, well, it just blew my mind at the time that there would be that many rooms, which in my mind warranted the need for more hotels. So now as those hotels are expanded now and increased, the impact on the entire industry is going to be felt, because now you're distributing people amongst all these other establishments, and you, because competition is good, rates will be adjusted more than likely to try to get them to come to your establishment. And so I just wanted to kind of connect with you on that, because it just seemed like a very bold statement. And I don't know, I see Brad has something too that he may want to add.
You'll have to come up to the microphones.
Yeah, it just blew my mind when he said that.
And again, what
And
I think you
please
might
stand in
have to
front of the microphones.
What you might have to keep in mind, and what you have to realize is that, again, when Grand Island has events and they're thriving, which that means cattle shows, baseball tournaments, softball tournaments, we have state tournaments here. When Grand Island is thriving through those months of what I said before, from May through September, hotels thrive on that, okay? It's the off months, such as October, November, December, January, part of February until horse racing season starts up, and when cheer and dance come into town, then it starts to pick back up. So that's when hotels thrive. Do all hotels fill up those seasons? Not necessarily, because it depends on the events that are here and depends on what the rates are for each hotel. Some hotels charge $300 to $400 a night. Other hotels can charge $100 to $200 a night. So it just depends on, where that fluctuation goes.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I don't want to speak for Paul. Most likely it refers to his 2 properties that he has here. He's building 2 new ones. So that number, I could check with Paul and confirm that. Most likely he's talking about the 2 properties that he has, not the whole city.
Oh, so it may have been 133 nights that...
At his properties would be my...
Okay, well...
Most likely the way that is. And just to talk about that occupancy, we're a bell curve, meaning we're heavily used in the summers, and as Carla mentioned, the colder season months, not as busy. Carnies are a little more flat because they're a major convention business there. They have humans in warm places. We have animals in cold places, right? So that's a differentiator between the 2 industries that we would have, but that would be likely what he was referring to.
Okay, well, that helps me quite a bit, because it just seemed like a shocking number to me at the time, that there was that much, that we were that full.
I can call him and confirm that, but my sense is that's what he was saying.
And I wouldn't waste my time talking to him, but I do appreciate that. And I guess the same thing holds true. The reason I was able to get $55 a night in Colorado Springs is because they weren't as busy as they are in the middle of summer. So, and it's not $55 at the same place where I stay, so I guarantee you. So, yeah, that makes sense. So again, Chuck, thank you for bringing this up. The 2% continuing it is better than the alternative right now. And I think we're going to lose 2 weeks no matter what, because it's going to sunset. But if we approve this tonight, we're only going to lose 2 weeks, and then we can regroup and find the best answer. So thank you.
Mr. Lanfear.
I think this is the most workable plan. I am in favor of holding it too forever, but my main concern is obviously a lot of people have a strong opinion on this. I would like to see anybody who has a dog in this fight have a chance to come out and speak their minds right here, because it can make a big difference in how this city is perceived. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is the motion to amend to keep at the 2%. Please vote. Motion adopted.
Okay, before we move on, council, I guess just for, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did everybody vote?
Yes. But we have to go back to the main.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just have to find it.
Mr. Sheard?
Thank you. While she's digging for that, we do have some of those people in the room. I guess before we vote on this staying at 2%, any of you have feedback to not do that or to move it forward one way or the other? Just, I mean, we keep saying we want to get your opinion and you're all in front of us, so to keep it at the 2%.
I think that's an excellent choice for now, and I would advise moving forward very quickly. We do want to be at the table to help resolve these issues, but we don't want to do it to the detriment of the industry and find those right solutions. I think it's there. I think we can figure this out. To Mayor Steele's point earlier about ponying in, it is private business. It is the events, our organization. It is, I think, a solution with 3, 4, 5, 6 funding streams is the smartest way to do this. How do we get to it? I think we get ourselves into a room, lock ourselves in, figure it out. It'll be a great step forward for Grand Island to be able to do that. So the singular funding source is not the solution. I'm talking about the livestock stuff in particular at this point. And so I think there's could be a solution. So 2% tonight totally makes sense. I don't want it to wait a long time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, convene this so we can get this resolved so that you can act on this within the next 30 days or whatever.
If there was a way to get funding for the livestock shows, is 5% still a bad idea?
An increase is probably likely. 5%, your $3 versus $2.75 or whatever that is, yeah, is that, are we splitting hairs a little bit? I'm concerned as a salesperson about the perception of taking advantage of the families that come here. Now I'm thinking livestock shows. Tourism's way bigger than just livestock shows. It really is. I'm really concerned about that perception statewide. Do you want to be listed as one of the very highest occupancy tax? You know, because there's 5%, 2% here, 2% for us, 1% with the state, that's 5%. So our tourism already takes 5%. You add another 5%, pretty soon it's real money. And so I'm really concerned about that. We can properly work this out, get the messaging right, get the hoteliers' input on that return on investment to find out, you know, how that works. Just the concerns that I had was making sure that the future money doesn't get steered off into areas that are not pertinent to building and investing in the business.
Sure.
That's it.
Because the reason I'm asking this is we have another discussion in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, but if we don't have funding for the event center, if we don't have funding for livestock shows, if we don't have, I mean, you mentioned casino. Somebody mentioned the casino. That's $1 million a year right now. That's good money. But we've talked about the casino money in every single conversation that I've had. Well, we still got that casino money. That can go towards that. That same bucket ain't going to stretch forever.
I understand that, yeah.
And honestly, to do the things we want to do, there's not an unlimited bucket. So if we come back again in a month or 2 weeks, I just want to make sure that we're coming back with solutions and understanding that if we could just pay for all this stuff today, we would have done it and we wouldn't touch this. There's probably going to be an increase. I just want, Chris, you're standing up, like you want to come up. I just want to get that input from you guys.
Thank you. I really kind of wanted to stand up and say thank you, Carlos Dillon, who's found entertainment in all of this. Little levity is nice, but this is a very serious, important matter. And I feel a superfecta, in using a horse racing term, has been struck because there are 3 individuals, and now 4 per this meeting, who have embraced the whole idea of realizing the importance of the livestock show subsidy and doing everything in their power to do it. And that's Mary Burley from the EDC, it's Tanya Brown from Grove Grand Island, and it's Brad Mellema from GI Tourism. And now I see it from you, the council, thinking, let's give this some more thought. I've got a lot more answers for you that I'm happy to present in a more organized manner. And a lot of people behind me I have heard speak with more passion than they have here tonight, with a little higher voice level than they're hearing tonight. They didn't have a microphone from them when we were talking about this. So I really am proud of the professionalism that people have shown in coming up to the microphone and the professionalism of everyone here hearing it out. We kept in control. We need to continue to stay in control to get the benefit that this city needs. Thank you. That was my preamble. You had a question, Mr. Sheard?
No, I think your preamble was great.
All right. And that's my farewell. Thank you.
Mr. Nickerson.
Based on what Jack just said and what we've heard, I still think it's far more advantageous to have a study session and talk about the different options we have than to have another voting session where we won't have that freedom to discuss all the options we have. That means finance bringing together their view of this is the funds we have available and these are the options. So I don't think we're going to gain much if we were to come back in 2 weeks and try to have this discussion again. I would really ask for a study session to where we can dive into this thing. We may or may not come up with the best answer, but we'll be able to just talk about it more freely and look at all the options, and then we'll see what the best answer is. If we talk about the casino tax, let's see what is designated right now for that. Let's talk about if we were to add 1% to our occupancy for hotels, we need $500,000. Where are our options to get that for this bond? Let's have those conversations, but you're not going to do that in a voting meeting. It's just not going to happen. So I'm advocating for a study session. I'm going to definitely support what we've got before us to keep the 2% going. But another voting session without additional time to just really talk through this with all our options doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I'm definitely going to vote for what we've got tonight.
The administration would prefer a study session.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kyler. I'd like to talk to this because it's a critical thing. Obviously, we're talking about something that supports our building and has for 20 years, and it's critical that we have the support and that cash flow to kind of make sure that we keep things going like we are. So it's important to the maintenance and the upkeep of the building. But I don't want us to, one thing I do know about is livestock shows. I don't want us to get so lost on that we have to keep the upkeep of the HEC taken. I really want to point out that we want to do everything we can to make sure we don't lose these livestock shows. Our facility is probably one of the nicer facilities in the nation. The buildings that we have are incredible. They're high end. I mean, the amount of money and revenue that comes in from livestock shows is significant, and it's all outside money like Chris talked about. It's critical we find a way to support those as well, too. So I want, as a person that is a beneficiary of these funds, I think they're urgent that we have them to keep the upkeep and the maintenance of the building to keep us running like we need to. But I don't want us to lose sight of, we don't want to lose these livestock shows. They bring in money and they bring in a lot of money. And the better we do it, the more we'll get, and the more we'll get, we'll increase the number of those shows as well too. So I just wanted to bring it up as from an outside perspective, we need to find ways to make sure we keep those shows here too. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, this is voting on the original motion. Please vote. We voted on the amendment already to the 2%. So this is clear back. Do we have to go, we have to go back to the original motion?
As amended.
As amended.
Correct, yeah, you're now on the new main motion is to vote on the amended ordinance.
Yes. Motion adopted.
Great discussion. Moving on to ordinance 10B, consideration of repealing ordinance 10,054 and renaming U.S. Highway 30. Is there a motion to suspend the statutory rules? Mr. Haase.
Mayor, I make a motion to suspend the statutory rules.
Thank you. Mr. Sheard.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Please proceed, Mr. Nabity.
Make this very quick, we made a mistake on the last ordinance, so we're trying to fix it. We put in there that it was old US Highway 30. Well, the existing section of Old Highway 30 is just Old Highway 30. And as we were looking at updating that, we realized we had the US in there. So all this does is change it to get rid of the US and make it Old Highway 30.
Thank you, Mr. Nabity. Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. I move that we pass ordinance 1056.
Mr. Lanfear.
I second.
Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Good night, everybody. We are adjourned. Have a happy new year.